Hello, hello! Welcome to episode 6 of GAMbIT Magazine's RuPaul's Drag Race podcast. We are the Shady Ladies. I am Samir Roy, contributing editor to GAMbIT Magazine, joined by
Margaret Poupard.
And it was quite an interesting episode, I must say.
Yeah, I don't think I've been in such disagreement with the judge's decision before. Usually I can see why they go one way or another, but this time I'm kind of a little bit put off by like how it all ended up shaking out.
Yeah, it was very strange. Like, I had a feeling that Trixie wouldn't last through the whole competition, but I was really sad to see her go this soon.
I know, it was really
And
surprising.
to Pearl.
Yeah, when
Pearl clearly seems like the person, like, I don't know, I'm a tennis person, so, like, my favorite player is playing, and then, like, some total nobody, like, beats the, like, person that I really like, and then they lose in the next round, so it's like, oh, great, you took out, like, the player that I was really entertained by, and then you went home immediately after anyways. I'm like, is that gonna happen to Pearl?
But even just on, like, a kind of simpler level, it's like, they want a lot of energy from a queen, and they keep complaining about Pearl's energy levels, and it's like Trixie has that in spades, so just because she stumbled a little bit in this challenge doesn't mean that she's not deserving of another chance, especially when she brought so much energy and like a different side of her personality to her lip sync, where I thought Pearl just did a lot of her same shtick, but like kind of with more of that, oh god, why am I blanking? This is so embarrassing. Like mommy dearest kind of like facial expressions. But other than that, it was like a really weird choice. I kept waiting for it to start, which is never good for someone to say.
Yeah,
like when you're waiting for like, oh, I'm waiting for this movie to start, and it just never started. And I sat there for 2 hours waiting to start. It's like at least I only waited like 3 minutes for this performance to just never not start.
Yeah.
I just feel so bad for Trixie, and plus she really liked the song. It's like an overall just giant salt on the wound moment.
I know, it was so
especially
painful.
Since I also thought that Pearl wasn't even going to make it to the stage, especially since I watched Untucked after we had written our review. I really didn't think that she was going to, like, based on how she was acting backstage, I didn't think she was going to come back. I thought she was just going to smoke her a cigarette and be like, all right, peace, never mind. I'm just going to make this really easy on everybody.
Like, for somebody who's already so, like, silent and, like, downtrodden all the time, for her to be so
really cares.
Silent. Well, she does, but like,
I also feel like she, at that moment, she was just like, fuck it, I don't care anymore.
Well, it was to everyone else, like, they were used to seeing that from her, so, like, the fact that they were all concerned about her shows just how extremely, like, silent and non-communicative she had been, because everybody was talking in Untucked, and she literally just stood there with her face down, and, like, to us, it's like, well, that's kind of like her thing. Like, she doesn't say much. She has that kind of like, I'm over it look. But clearly it was different this time around.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, like, you could really tell that she was like, I am over it. Not like, oh, this is just part of my... You could just tell something inside of her, like, cracked a little bit.
It's just so funny. I didn't realize there were so many, like, levels to that, like, dead personality. Like, there's more than just the dead level, apparently.
Right.
There's multiple levels of this, I don't know what you call it. It's just such a bizarre... It is like Paris Hilton, but like Paris Hilton highly medicated.
But I think it was Trixie, since she does know Pearl the best, that was saying that, like, Pearl, on and off the stage, is one of the chillest people that you'll ever meet. Like, legitimately is one of those people that actually does go with the flow and doesn't really mind and is like kind of like, okay. And I really bought that, even though I think that most people that say that they're easygoing or super chill usually are not. But since Pearl didn't say that about herself, I'm more inclined to believe it.
She didn't say that about herself. It's very true. It was, I guess, like, the reason they came to that. I just felt bad
for everyone involved.
It was so bad. Like, she was so upset also. And I think it really came down to the fact, it's unfortunate, but I feel like they hold Trixie to a higher standard, especially since RuPaul said, like, her audition video was, like, one of the funniest I've ever, of any of the ones that I'd ever seen for this show. And I haven't seen that side of her on the show.
I mean, I understand, like, points for Pearl trying to be more Pearl and, like, come out of her shell.
Nothing to something. It's like, seems like a much bigger and more impressive jump, and looks better than someone who started, like, with the expectation up here and was delivering below that. So it's like you have somebody who was below the expectation level that RuPaul had for her, and then someone who was like way exceeding what they had expected of her. But it's like maybe it was a brilliant strategy. Give them almost like absolutely nothing. And then when you do anything, it's like, oh my god, that was really good.
I guess if that's a strategy.
I don't know. It was just it was so like the whole her performance was just so bizarre and surreal just to look at. You're like, I don't even know what it is that she's doing or what she's trying to communicate right now. But I guess I have to look at it because it might go somewhere.
Exactly.
Kind of like Under the Skin.
Which I never saw because you told me it was so bad and how much you hated it.
Which is even more sad because all of my a lot of my very close film friends all love that movie. I'm like the only one who doesn't. I mean, I am a little crazy.
Actually, no. One of my Ari and Brennan are like some film friends that whose opinion I take seriously as well in terms of like what I will and won't watch if they've seen it before me. And Brennan, who never falls asleep in anything, fell asleep in Under the Skin because he was so bored, and Ari just sat there and hate watched it. And I was like, guess I'm not watching it then. I don't want it.
So Pearl on this show has been rather like Under the Skin was for me.
Hate watch?
Except that I don't hate watch her because I definitely didn't even hate watch Under the Skin. I just like didn't like it. But I thought it was like the idea that like something that like just you keep waiting for it to begin and never begins.
I mean,
that movie was
unfortunately
like that for me.
a lot of the. But I think that's also what keeps a lot of people in the running, though. In like Pearl, and we can talk about expanded to TV movies too, where a lot of it is like a great concept that you keep waiting to like take off and like do something, but it never will because it's just really a great concept and you can't maybe turn it into something because sometimes it just doesn't fucking translate, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just that it just didn't fucking work, so you just need to figure out a different angle to make it work. And I just don't know if she's like figured out if it's not translating necessarily to TV or if her personality doesn't lend itself well to Drag Race, or if there's just something missing. I'm not really sure what it is. But in terms of the lip sync for your life, like just head to head and you just want to judge them on their merits, I understand what you're saying about how Trixie's at a higher level. But at this point, they were both in the bottom two, so they both fucked up in some sort of way. And I understand that it was Trixie's idea, but
Trixie's idea was
also
good
very
part.
clever, and
that was the good part of the
There were
video.
so many other positives, though, that worked for Trixie and not for Pearl that I still just couldn't get behind the decision of
that she was
her.
in the bottom two, even just being in the bottom two. I'm like, well,
I
how much more...
I don't know. Fine, give her a wake up call or whatever, quote unquote. Give her a wake up call, quote unquote, and send her in the bottom two and make her lip sync for her life. But don't send her home for, like I said, a stumble that I think that she would do more of. She wouldn't let it defeat her the way I think that it's probably going to end up defeating Pearl in the long run. Like you said, Trixie will end up going home for Pearl to go home an episode or two later?
Yeah, it's like that's the kind of sad thing. And then, of course, there was Candy Ho, who was in the bottom three as well. But I felt like she really should have been in the bottom two with Pearl. Like, I felt like that was really how it should have been, just because, like you said, Trixie did so much more besides just the performance in the video, and all Candy Ho had to go on was the performance in the video and the runway challenge. And she was, like, the least impressive of her group, and their group was really good, but, she was clearly the least of them, and her runway look wasn't as good as anyone else's. So then you have Trixie, who actually had a great concept, and half of that execution really worked thanks to Katya and Miss Fame. Miss Fame and Katya kind of, like, really knocked out of the park for their portion. But Trixie didn't, like, totally bring it herself. But also...
It was strange. I don't really know what the fuck happened there.
Above that, like, they were, like, really nonplussed by Pearl. It was literally, like, the smile sags into a frown as they're watching her do her thing, and they're like, oh. So clearly we knew Pearl was going to be on the bottom, but I really thought that Candy Ho would be there with her, and I think it's maybe the next episode would be the episode to give poor little Trixie, like, her wake-up call if she does really poorly again.
Yeah, and that's why I thought initially that when Trixie was going to end up in the bottom two, that she was going to... The purpose of that was to give her a wake-up call. And, I mean, with Candy Ho, I don't know.
Who's improved.
She's definitely improved. I think she's kind of going with your theory of give them absolutely nothing so that when you do something well, they'll be like, oh, wow, that was great. Cool. Good.
Like,
it was great for you.
You're creating your arc. You have to start really low so that, like, you know, the peak comes towards the end. And I guess for some people, they interpret the start point to be much, much lower for that arc to work. And maybe Candy Ho's working that.
I think if she had a better runway look, she wouldn't have ended up in the bottom three.
She says in Untucked even, like, she's like, well, you know, I don't really have, like, concepts. Like, my look is to be as beautiful as
she's like, I'm not going to,
possible.
like, walk down the runway and, like, today I'm a cat.
Yeah. Which everyone found funny, but it was also very true of her. I'm like, okay, well, we know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really what you anticipate from the winner of a current season now. I mean, like in season 2, the look was really kind of all you needed. Like, Tyra Sanchez had a little bit of personality, and really it was the look was, like, flawless every single time. And she just had an endless amount of amazing looks, and that was, like, really enough to set her apart up and above the other queens that season. But now I think you need, obviously, a lot more than that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not fully seeing that from Candy Ho. Like, she's not the worst, though. That's the thing. It's like, she's not really the worst.
But then I don't think, though, then the argument is that we're not at the point of the competition where if you're not the worst and you're not the best, you're not going home yet.
There's still a lot of people there, and it's like, I guess a lot of them kind of did well. I mean, because the whole idea was for them to parody the music video challenges that usually end each season. So you get to, like, play on the queens that were finalists in previous seasons and RuPaul's music. And, of course, it's all RuPaul's designed this so that it also sells his music. So you got the self-promotion in there, but it's also still going to be funny because they're going to do drag versions of other drag queens. And Jaden kind of, like, stepped out of her group. It was easy to, like, step out as the star of her group. They had Sissy That Walk, so they were doing, like, you know, Adore Delano, and that was obviously Violet. Violet ended up in a group of the Reject group. That was the Reject group, because all the other groups, RuPaul lets them choose their groups themselves, and of course, Jaden, Max, and Violet, who's always the last picked, all just are the ones left standing in the room next to each other.
They made their own misfit group.
So they're like, okay, well, we're a group then. And Max tries to be like, all right. But then also, once they start working together, Max is like, I don't want to do anything that's, like, overly sexual. I'm like, okay.
It's actually funny to note that nobody actually did do anything overly sexual.
They didn't really. And it was funny that, like, just saying that, like, seems so, like, what, you're a drag queen. Like, inherently, that's, like,
that isn't
part of your shtick, isn't it?
Exactly. That's in your bag of tricks.
Like, you should have that, but he's like, I think a drag queen could be so much more. Well, that's also very true. It just was shocking to hear those
But it was just like, I was like, okay, smart, because everybody else will probably do that. But then nobody else did that, so I was like, this is kind of weird.
They all have the same thing. They're like, oh, I shouldn't do that. That's probably, like, really too obvious. We should do something else. And, of course, Team Ginger Minch, who I did not realize was actually, she's like, oh, well, I'm a singer, so everybody came to me. And I was like, what, you're a singer? And then Trixie was like, oh, well, Miss Fame's a singer, so obviously I chose her. I'm like, what? Miss Fame's a singer?
Right? I was like, I didn't know that.
Happening. And then Ginger,
I would buy more because she's a lot more theatrical and has theater background.
She has obviously a limited range due to, like, you know, being a cross-dressing chain smoker.
For Jesus Christ.
From Florida. Like, that's her thing. But, like, even on Twitter, people are like, I miss watching you smoke. And I'm like, she must smoke a lot. Like, because they all keep talking about this, and I'm like, she's not kidding, apparently, but she still had, like, a really good singing voice. I mean, obviously, like I said, limited range, slightly deeper tone, but
also auto-tune.
It had a personality to it, too, and, like, it had an actual tone. Like, an actual, like, singer's tone to it.
Well, let's talk about too much personality in your voice, Miss Kasha Davis.
Oh, my God. And, like, and everyone's like, oh, we knew exactly what we were getting from you.
When Ginger Minch is like, she sounds like Eugene Merman right now.
Eugene Merman.
I fucking died. I was like, she does. And then I think it was Ross Matthews that said that she sounded like B. Arthur. I was like, yeah, that too.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, she does have...
I mean, I expected her to do a little, like Liza Minnelli type shit, but it was, like, so extreme. I was like, thank God there's things called auto-tune to make it... just even it out. It was just so far on the other side than how everybody else was sounding that I was kind of afraid what it was going to sound like when they all mixed their voices together for a chorus.
Yeah.
Because individual, fine, whatever, like, that can be your character, I think. But, but how is that going to sound when you all have to harmonize?
I don't think any of them really harmonized. I think
I felt like all the chorus, like, harmonies sounded... a little off to me, but you know, I was
But
not
most of
trying
them
to
are
be
not professional.
exactly,
so,
and I'm
like,
not trying to be critical of that because they also probably had 2 hours to record this or less.
how can you focus
So-
when you're in a room with Lucian Piani? I just can't.
Do you want to take a moment to swoon over him? I can
swoon
leave
over
if
Lucian.
you want.
No, you can stay. Share the love.
Okay, he
Share
is
the
very
love.
handsome.
He's so adorable and he's just so sweet. But yes, this was another fun excuse to have him around.
How did you feel about Violet talking back to your boy?
I was like, it's Violet.
Oh, you weren't like, bitch.
I was like, honey, he's not going to say anything like mean back to you, but he is going to still like tell you exactly what's wrong and need it to be fixed if you want to be better. So he's really just helping you. But that's just how Violet reacts to things. And
Well, I felt like the octave thing was probably, you know, that was just being honest. I don't know what the fuck octave I'm in. I don't do this. Please help. But
she doesn't
like,
know how to communicate that in a way that's going to get results.
oh yeah, no, I agree.
She hasn't
No,
learned
like
that
I was
yet.
following your lead, and I was like, girl, just stop talking. There's a point where it's like, okay, fine, you can be self-deprecating, but just stop before you like add the like shady comment at the end.
Oh, I was following your lead. Well, okay, but now he's telling you that you're doing something
Well,
wrong.
his lead was wrong, and now you're wrong, and now everyone's wrong, so fucking do it over.
Wrong right now. Ugh, but yes, that was predictable. She was a little bit bitchy. You see a little bit more of the bitchiness, but it's also like, I love that when Untucked, when they actually did confront her about it, and they were even saying, like, you know, well, you're going to grow. You have a long way to go. Obviously, Kennedy was being a tad bit shady when she said it that way. But it's very true. Violet's very young, like super, super talented. Like everybody agrees. So like, I can't believe she's only 22, and she's got this level of like, you know, the aesthetic perfection, and you can sense the personality in there.
Yeah, her
and,
runway outfit was amazing. It was really great.
You know, very like obviously like, you know, they know that she's a threat, and they even tell her that, like, you know, they're all very real with each other. Like it's so weird to have them like to see this version of Untucked this year, because it's almost like they're just they're not making an effort to be overly showy, which the previous seasons were like a little more produced, so it had that kind of feel from the queens realized they were on a show that was a little more produced. They would still have their conversations the way they normally would, but it seems like there's less drama between them backstage. Like they're all kind of like, oh, we get to relax. Like, oh my gosh, like that was so like they're actually having like all having a good time.
I like that they
this.
just kind of like critique everything as a whole, and it's kind of none of this is like meant to be overly shady or a read or anything like that. It's just like, let's all sit back and talk about what we thought we did right, what we thought we did wrong, what we thought we nailed, what we thought we fucked up,
what we thought was good, what we thought was bad,
and just like
and why.
of myself, of everybody. Like I think no one is safe like from critique, so nobody takes any of those like reads seriously or the wrong way to like lead to a cat fight.
They're not really taking them. But you know, it's like I said, it's still early. You know, there's a nice.
It could probably.
Natural,
I mean, tension will get high
feel. So the tension,
a little bit
as it gets higher.
Yeah.
I feel like there may be more arguments, maybe, or more shady comments. It's going to evolve, I think, as you know, their emotions get more intense. The Untucked episodes.
But I do
more
think
intense.
it's interesting to get their kind of perspective and their analysis, since they're obviously in the midst of doing it, and what they think about it.
And it's like they're surprisingly like, you know, they're very cognizant of everything as it's happening. They're not like in their own bubble. I'm surprised by how like they're seeing like really like the whole picture in a lot of ways. People who seem like, you know, their character may be a little shadier, but when they're backstage, you know, even Kennedy, who's like, I don't know, just hilarious. She's also kind of like shade on Ambien.
Lord, I know. It's like, it's hard to tell when she's insulting you, which is almost bad.
Or she's like completely woken up yet, like sometimes. But yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. Like it really feels like a documentary series and not just some sort of supplemental like behind the scenes clips.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, like we're actually documenting this from this other side, this sort of stripped down, like Untucked, you know. It's
not just a pun, you guys. I know the
just a
episode's
pun.
called Punny or Die, but Untucked is more than a pun.
There's always multiple levers. There's multiple levers and levels to how RuPaul uses words in this show in every possible way. So that's what I love
R.I.P.
about
Interior
it.
Illusions Lounge.
Oh, I still miss that Interior
R.I.P.
Illusions Lounge. And the Form Decor Lounge. That only lasted one season.
Yeah, I was like, I hardly remember that. Me and Interior Illusions go way back.
Yes. All the way to the beginning.
All the way. But anyway.
But yeah, there was like, I thought it was really funny that there was no mini challenge. This went right into Maxi challenge.
Yeah, I know. I almost, it took me a minute. I was like, wait, I'm confused. I feel like we're missing something. Oh, they're just, okay.
They just started right away.
Okay.
There was a whole lot of shit to do. They had so much to do.
They did. When she laid it all out, I was like, oh, I see now.
Like, when I, think about, wait a minute. So they have to write lyrics. They had to basically write new parody lyrics to a RuPaul song. And then choreograph, a number to be in the music video of your parody song, which you are all going to sing and record. And it's probably a day that they get to do all. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Shouldn't part of this have been the mini challenge? One part of it maybe?
Maybe it's the best 3 parody songs could have been the team leaders and so on.
Something,
and so
who knows? But it seemed like
because I also think the fact that there wasn't a real team leader ordained by Ru, that there was a little bit of too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yes, definitely.
On a couple teams, and then at least that led to, in the Untucked episode, Ginger talking about how she feels like she's just helping other people win, and she hasn't put herself in the position to really shine, and she's kind of maybe left it for other people because she was busy directing people.
But she always does so well, so she's like, how can I be doing this well and be doing all these other things on top of that and still not winning
and coming
all these
up
challenges?
short? Yeah,
I should. She's very close, and she
won
the
the mini
challenge this season because Benjamin Creme was like that. But Benjamin Creme won his first challenge, and he did win a second challenge, probably around the same time that Ginger has won this one, and then ended up just going home earlier than we thought, and then got brought back. See, every season recently they've been bringing someone back. So I'm that's why I'm is Trixie coming back? I had the feeling that she was, just because one of the clips, like I said in the super trailer, was she's like, Ginger, do people of your body type prefer to be called little person or beanbag chair or something?
Oh, I remember that.
Remember that? We haven't seen that clip anywhere in any episode yet.
But we did see Pearl's lizard outfit like you were talking about last week.
I'm psychic waves, man. I told you 50% psychic, 50% shitty amateur sleuth. Is me.
You're like Veronica Mars with vague ESP.
Vague ESP. But I was feeling that outfit, and then they really tore into her before all the safe queens when they went back and Untucked were tearing her for not wearing pads. They were really upset about her not wearing pads. I would never go out in an outfit like that without pads. And I'm like, but lots of girls. What? Violet went out without pads. She went out with her bare ass. But then again, Pearl's outfit was she was in leotards. But still, I'm like, well, I don't understand why it's okay for some of them to not wear pads and why it's not okay for
Here's
Pearl
my
not
2 cents.
To. But it looked like it would have been better if she had.
It would have looked better because Pearl doesn't really have a butt. She's got a flat butt. It's that mom jean butt. And Violet, as Jessica Alba said, has a really cute butt. So, I mean, that's probably why. You just want to give yourself the best shape. I don't know if they meant it as harshly as it was kind of coming off. I think that was just also another ding, was you just kind of made yourself look really flat. Didn't Kennedy say she looked like a green piece of paper or something like that?
Something like that, yes, because she was
I have to kind of agree, because her makeup and her headpiece kind of saved the outfit for me, because she looked really flat on it, on both sides, and there were just no shapes or curves. It added
more dimension and more third dimension. It was
all about, and I understand face and trying to do that, but also her face I felt was hard to see at times because the back, I don't know what the hell that was. High collar was a little bit, it was overshadowing her almost.
It was the back of a cobra kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I got the effect, but I felt for her face though, it didn't help. It didn't do her any favors to make her face pop more.
I thought she looked gorgeous. I thought the real problem was the fact that her lower half of her body seemed disconnected from the upper half of her body. Kind of when you take a mannequin and put it on the bottom of a different size mannequin, and
when
it's
you
clear
do
that
mix
they
and
don't go
match
together.
Mannequins like you do.
I don't know. If you work retail at Macy's, you just gotta do something. But it just felt like the lower half of a different body connected to the upper half of her body. It was somebody else's legs, poking out from her torso, trying to move with it, and it wasn't going with it. So that's why I was her walk was kind of odd, and it was just bizarre. So when she got backstage and Untucked and had had her version of a meltdown, which if you weren't looking closely, you wouldn't have really seen.
A silent meltdown.
It's just so, she's so strange. So that's, I think, why there's a fascination about her that really keeps her prescient in RuPaul's mind, I suppose. And maybe that's what he saw, and he was like, well, you know, I've given Trixie this many chances to show her what I saw in her already, but I feel like there's an enigma in Pearl.
Yeah, if you have to break, you have to bust out somehow.
Gotta bust open that clam to get the poil.
I don't think
oysters? Oysters. You have to bust open the oyster to get the pearl.
Well, whatever. Either analogy, because I'm not. I think you're right. It is oysters. Either way, I don't think there's a better suited analogy for another person I've ever heard.
We're like waiting for that shell to open up, dear. It's like so literal.
Yeah, really, please, because I feel like just maybe this will help. I don't know. This could go either way.
It really could, but you know, like I'm not holding out a great deal of hope that she's going to surprise us with anything. More than what we've already seen. Like, it could, like I said, she suddenly just came to life. Just coming to life was enough to save her in the lip sync for your life.
Well, I think coming to life, quote unquote, like, brings her entire look together and the personality. So when you have, like, a little bit of, like, oomph to back up even your blasé attitude, it kind of comes across a little bit better.
True. Well, thinking of all the groups, which of the videos was your favorite? Because we had the Team Trixie with it was Dance With Me, but it was Tan With Me. Mm-hmm. And the look and the concept for most of it actually really worked. It was such a disaster in the pre-production stages that, like, there's no way this is going to come together at all. And then we see it, and it's like,
I was surprised.
Really hilarious.
And
like,
I actually thought Tan With Me was personally my favorite. The other two videos...
that walk was only good, really, like, okay, what's her name? Violet was good as Adore, but Jaden stole it as Bianca Del Rio.
Exactly. I mean, I could have just watched her impression of her the entire time.
Fall.
Do you need help packing your bags?
It was just,
She was great. She made that entire video. If they didn't have her, they would have been fucked.
Yeah, and Max was very real about it, too. He's like, oh, you know, I completely agree with what they said about me.
Exactly. And I did like Michelle Visage's challenge of, like, don't wear a fucking gray wig next time.
And Violet caught it earlier in this episode, too. She actually said, she's like, I'm noticing that when Max is in anything except a gray wig, kind of just looks like Max.
That's a good point.
You know, so he's like, so Violet caught it early, Michelle caught it, so it's like, this is going to be that theme, I think. Mm-hmm. I think we've picked up on a little theme there, and we picked up on the little theme of Mrs. Kasha Davis sort of like doing the same thing over and over again. Like they all like talked about how like they knew exactly what she was going to do. In terms of her performance, her dress, though, for the green runway challenge was I thought one of the funniest.
I thought it was really clever. I liked it.
Green is money. I loved it. And the dress was gorgeous. The color, the pop, the sparkle, it all worked for her. But, you know, in their video, that was another hilarious concept where it was like, I got paid.
Yeah, I liked it.
And it was all done like an infomercial or QVC.
I really did feel like that Drag You line, though, was a little like...
It was too far.
It sunk the humor, and it ruined the pacing.
Because I was like, well, do you really think it was a rough spot? I'm like, I loved that show.
I feel like RuPaul's had like way worse rough spots, honestly. I feel like Drag Anything... It has been a high point of her career.
Yes, and I would say
Ru's had like way worse times, like in the 90s and stuff. If you want to go back in the file and dig that shit up, I think that she would be more likely to laugh at that than... Because she's really proud of Drag Race, as she fucking should be. So I just felt like that... When I heard it, I was like, ugh... When I heard it at first, I was like, well, if they just, like, said it once, like, fine, whatever.
We only heard it the once, and then RuPaul
But then when it was, like, the 5 fucking times in the final video, I was like,
why?
Like,
it was in every chorus. I'm like, why did you put that in every chorus? And then, of course, after they hear it when they get critiqued during the making of the video, they're like, well, the track's already recorded. It's too late to change it now. Like, what are we going to do? I have to leave it in there. And I think that's really what cost
I'm just surprised that they even ended up recording it. Like, going with that as the final... This is it. This is the funniest we can do.
Like, it almost felt a little bit too much like a read and not enough comedy. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the video was really funny, so it kind of almost made up for it. But they really had to
if they didn't say the line 5 other times.
It's just like, I feel like that every time it came back up. Oh my god, again. Like, I was like, ugh.
It killed the humor for me of the whole video.
I was like, oh, it's so unfortunate because Ginger Minj sounded so good. Like, the track sounded really good.
I know, her voice sounded really...
Kennedy sounded really good. I didn't think Kennedy should have won, though.
I agree.
I really thought it was either Katya or Jaden. It should have been between them. Like,
hilarious.
like Katya was like that was. I thought that really, like, I know you felt that Jaden should have won because she was so amazing as Bianca.
No, to me, I wouldn't have been able to pick between Katya or Jaden because for me, they both made both of their videos. It was more like Miss Fame and Katya, but Katya was so hilarious. She's always so funny, even in parts where she's not saying any lines and she's just interacting with people. She just goes for it. She just she acted the whole fucking way through as you're supposed to.
Yeah,
she didn't drop her character, and I thought that she was so committed and so funny.
And it was such a good character too, like a believable thing. Like, you know, it all the details of it worked. Like But
I think maybe I would have gone with Katya because she created a wholly original character. And, you know, Jaden's impression was amazing and super funny. But like you said, it would have been between those two for me versus Kennedy even being close to the mix.
They really wanted to,
I think I would have, if I would have had to pick like a top 3, I would have included Ginger instead of Kennedy. Because that was Ginger's idea. And it was really funny and well executed. And even though she had that shitty line in there, whatever, it was fun. Like, what can you fucking do? And I thought that her performance, I felt like you could feel that she was like the leader. And like, I thought Kennedy was fine. She sort of
naturally takes that role. And Kennedy was really good. She sang really well. The performance was really good. But at the same time, it's like...
But to make her safe, not to have her win the whole thing.
I didn't think it was worthy of winning. And I think they just wanted that, like, drastic change up from last week being on the bottom to this week winning a challenge.
Well, she didn't need to win then. She could have just been top 3.
That's what I think. You know, just like Trixie Mattel could have just been bottom 3 but not on the bottom 2 and gotten her message. Kennedy could have been like, okay, you're much better, but you're not the best. I didn't think she should have won.
Way better than last week. Good job. Keep it up.
Exactly.
You know? And then, you know, Trixie, like, fucking don't do this shit again.
Like, hello, Pearl got a wake-up call. Why can't Trixie get a make us laugh call? What do you call it? I don't know.
A funny bone call?
Something.
I can do better. Come back to me.
Oh, sorry.
It wasn't that funny.
Well, I'm choking. It's allergy season.
Do you want me to pause?
Spring is blooming early. No, it's fine. We're good. But yeah, I kind of thought, surprisingly, that Trixie's video was my favorite of all the videos.
Mine too.
It was like, because at first it sounded like so underwhelming. I'm like, oh really? That's what... Okay. But then RuPaul seemed to like it. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And they went with it, and it was hilarious. Like, it was not, like, the most, like, groundbreaking concept ever, perhaps. Like, but it was executed so well.
I still thought it was super funny.
And it was I thought it was the funniest one all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, just the surprise of it actually coming together at all was like a miracle. Because it looked like... It
did not look like it was going to come
all
together.
The way through. And then I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is what you were saying in the written review. I was like, wait a minute. Like, I was so surprised by that. I felt like I really felt manipulated by this episode. Because they really set you up to think that everyone's going to crash land because we just come off of Shakespeare, where they had the worst car crash in Drag Race history. Drag Race history. So it's like, and the whole theme was sort of like, polar opposite of last week. This week, everybody's great. But you're the greatest of the great, Kennedy Davenport?
Yeah.
Question mark?
I don't know. It didn't really...
I wasn't feeling that.
Didn't land for me.
She was definitely worthy of being in the top and being safe for me. That's as far as I would go for her. I would really like to see Katya win a challenge. Although the way that she says, oh my gosh, in like the preview for the next episode makes me think that she wins that challenge. But I don't know I can't remember what it is. I don't remember what the challenge is.
I don't know either.
Oh, I didn't watch that. Is that preview video even up yet?
I don't know.
Except they always seem to like give you like 10 minutes of the show the next week, like on the website. So if you're just like us, like salivating, hungry constantly for Drag Race anything, you need to first of all follow the Wow Presents like YouTube channel and just subscribe to it because then you'll get like a million Drag Race related videos, and they're all actually really entertaining. But you will also get to see on their website like extended clip, like the opening clip of the next episode. And so you get to see what the challenge is and get to see a little bit of the people working together. So we foreshadowed, obviously, last week the difficulties that laid ahead, but we were in no way prepared for the decision that came down that sent Trixie home. I'm still shocked and still saddened and heartbroken by this.
Yeah, the outcome of the episode came so far out of nowhere for me, on both fronts, the winning and the losing.
Yeah.
I'm upset. I'm upset by all things. Usually they're so spot on, and even
But
just
they always
based on like
have
the
a
critique.
controversial decision.
I know, but
yeah, you said
just based on the critique, though, like it just didn't. It all just didn't seem to add up for me. But I don't know. All right, fine.
I did love that moment in Untucked when Trixie was like reading through the notes and she's like, "Oh, you're so amazing," and I'm like, "I'm gonna win for you." Oh, that's so sweet. You're not like
Wasn't that from Max?
I think it was from Max. Yes, it was. It was you got to see like because it's true. Whenever she's in the workroom, you would see Trixie like, even as a boy, like that character's there.
I think Miss Fame had a point about Trixie just buckling under the pressure. And I think that if anybody would know, she would probably know most and best since she's been on a team with her every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I could kind of see that. Like, she kind of, and even like the challenge that she did well in, the Glamazon Airways, like, I feel like that was kind of like holding things together.
Like, she really had like the personality and character in that video. Or not in that video, in that fake, it was like the live performance of what would have been a safety video. It was actually really on point. I was like, okay, well, we are seeing some of that kooky personality there, but then I was disappointed that she didn't go more for it in the video challenge. Like, we were talking when we were watching, like, she just keeps walking off, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you just stay on camera and just, like,
yeah, it was really strange, because, like, they didn't yell cut, and the music didn't stop, and everybody was still going.
Well, I thought, because my bit in this section is just doing this one thing with the phone, when I'm lip-syncing, when someone else, my part is done, so I thought that I was supposed to go off stage. And then she did it again after they, like,
no,
told her to come back. So I'm like, oh, she was a little too in her head, I guess. Like you said, like you were saying Miss Fame had said, buckled in a weird way. Because it's, oh my God. And in the preview videos that we saw, which obviously were filmed after the season was done, all those like clips and commercials for the show that aired before, those were obviously filmed after they'd filmed the run of the season. And Trixie is like so funny in all of those.
I know. Like
effortlessly funny. So I'm like, she can do it in front of a camera, but maybe like in the midst of the show, in the
pressure's
actual race,
yeah,
it was too much. But I still think that there's the slightest hint she may be back, maybe, possibly. She lasted to at least the 4th episode of the show, so that's long enough for them to have like seen something of her and be like, oh, you know what, I want to give her a chance. But usually they do that with somebody who was like almost always like almost winning or had won a challenge, and Trixie hadn't won a challenge. So, I don't know. I'm still crossing my fingers and praying for you every night, Trixie Mattel, and I'm also praying that you come do some performance in a town near me so I can see what the hell else you had packed in those, like, million suitcases, as you mentioned.
Damn, girl. Seriously, how much money do you pay in checking in your bags?
Like, when Tempest du Jour left, she had, like, 2 suitcases. And then as everybody else after her left, it's like, oh my God, you have like 30 bags.
I know, it's like minimum like 4 rolling suitcases and like 17 little duffel bag carry-ons.
Oh my goodness. So that was the sad tale of Trixie Mattel. And like I said, I'm going to hold out hope that she is a queen that they decide to bring back.
Or at least include her on the drag ball tour.
Or at least that. We'll have to see.
Anyway, to see more of what she has to offer, because I feel bad. I feel like there was more comedy in there that she didn't really get a chance to unleash on everybody.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll miss you and hope to see you again in the future, dear Trixie. And of course, I can't even imagine how they're going to top themselves next week. I mean, I think still the episode before this one was like amazing to me. This one was a little like I rated it lower just because I was so unhappy with the result.
Same.
But it doesn't mean it wasn't entertaining, and I'm sure we're still going to be entertained next week, as we always are, by this fabulous gift.
I would say it was more entertaining in like a way that we maybe were expecting more of a train wreck and didn't get that, and then got some more surprise like elimination and winners instead.
Yes, we were very
surprised like people busting out some talents we didn't know they had, like Ginger and Fame being singers. Who would have thunk it?
Maybe they'll get to sing again.
Singers.
Good ones, sort of.
Sort of. Not
good
bad,
for the
better
show.
than me.
Maybe not as good as Ivy Winters, but still very good. And
LaGuardia, Newark, Kennedy. There's one every season.
There's one, like, Paris, Rome, Milan. Like, you always gotta have one.
Always
RuPaul
one.
always finds one. He always finds a way.
And what was the other one? Mahogany? Oh, fuck.
No, not Mahogany. Honey Mahogany?
No, not Honey Mahogany. There was another person whose name I'm blanking on. Who only lasted like 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh, no, it was one episode. It was Magnolia Crawford.
There we go. I was like, it was like very Gone with the Wind-esque.
RuPaul was like, I'm so sad I'm not going to get to say that every single week. Which I think he actually said in that season finale. But nonetheless, there was more Drag Race, new Drag Race, waiting for us. We shall see how they break my heart or send it soaring next Monday. Next RuPaul Monday.
Why, yes. So tune into our... I'll start that again. Please tune into our Shady Ladies podcast every Wednesday where we talk about all things RuPaul Drag Race.
Yes.
We get very deep inside.
Deep into the tuck, yes. Yes, we do. As deep as they want us.
And until then, you can keep up with us at GAMbITmagazine.com and follow our Twitter. I'm at Marg She Wrote.
I'm at Sam Miraculous, and I expect you all to favorite any of my tweets for #wars. Please do. And follow me on Instagram.
This is where you're putting the bid for this?
Well, anywhere I can put it. I gotta put it everywhere. It's the biological imperative of being human. You gotta spread your seed everywhere. Even if that seed is the desire to win #wars once on at midnight.
Yeah, even if your desire is to possibly meet Chris Hardwick in person.
I already did.
Oh.
That happened in San Francisco. That's another story.
And you still can't fucking win #wars?
Well, it's not like we became best buds or anything. But I'm hoping that maybe RuPaul will someday favorite one of our tweets.
Or at least listen to our podcast.
Just once, maybe to fall asleep to, even if you want to be shady that way.
We don't care.
I don't care.
A play is a fucking play, as RuPaul would know.
Just send us
she
a
is a savvy
screenshot of, like, it from your house, like, actually playing
she's
on something.
Or
your assistant, or whoever does it for you.
She's savvy. She knows that a play is a play, and so is a download, and it all matters. So, download this off of iTunes, and until then...
I bid you adieu.
Don't get caught in too much shade, y'all.
Unless it's in our Shady Ladies podcast.
Yeah, this is the only shade you should ever be dealing with.
Glory in it. Bye. Bye.
Bye.